Hey guys, thanks for tuning us in for this 35th episode of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. Special guests for this episode include podcasting friend of ours, Don Smith. We'll also visit with legendary Pat Boone and director and writer of the movie All Eyes, Todd Greenlee, will be wrapping up the show. If you would, please take the time to subscribe, drop a like, comment, leave some feedback, and share with your friends. Our first guest in this episode is going to be a podcast friend of ours, Don Smith. All right, guys, always love having special guests come over from other podcasts as well, because, that's part of the learning process. And we've got a host of the Life radio show podcast. We've got Don Smith on the line. And first off, Don, thank you so much for taking the time to share over on our podcast.
Hey, no problem. Thanks for having me.
Now, Don, give me a little insight as to where your podcasting career began, and first off, where it began, and how long you've been doing it.
Well, I've been podcasting for about 4 years. I've been on the radio for about 6, and how it developed. At the time, I had recently started performing stand-up comedy. But I was so busy, I'd gone back to school late to finish my bachelor's degree, plus with working full-time, everything else that was going on, I couldn't get on stage to perform as often as I wanted. So I started up the Life radio show on WWSU as it was more or less just a way where I could bring comics on, stay in the loop in the comedy world locally, and get to know more people. And that was kind of how it started.
Now, did you, because of COVID, has that affected the podcast? Obviously, it affected the live show for you, but what about the podcast? Obviously, that's changed things up there a bit as well.
Yeah, because I mean, even when I did the podcast not in the studio, which was rare, but when I did the podcast not in the studio, I'd still bring people in and do in-person interviews, and I would usually have a guest co-host with me in person. And once COVID hit, I mean, a lot of the in-person stuff had to stop. So I've been doing them from my living room in my pajamas in the evenings, and it's been different. But I was originally doing just 2 one-hour episodes of the podcast each week. Mm-hmm. I now have 3 new episodes going out on Sunday, Tuesday, and Friday, and then I re-release an old episode from 4 years or so ago on Thursdays as a throwback.
All right.
Because there are a lot of the podcast distributors that don't have all the episodes on there, and I've got 460 some episodes. So I can safely recycle one on a Thursday and assume that a lot of people probably haven't heard it yet because it was before I had many listeners. Yeah.
Now, what you talked about when you didn't have as many listeners? Obviously, that's one of the big challenges for a podcaster that's just getting underway. What was it that kept you tried and true with it, regardless of how many listeners were out there at the time?
I really didn't pay a lot of attention to listeners. I don't mean I didn't pay attention to my listeners. I didn't pay attention to how many there were. I started the show because I enjoyed doing it. I like talking to people. I like meeting new people. So I just kind of kept it going out of a love of doing it. And it's one of those things, you know, if I get followers, if I get a good listenership, that's wonderful. If I don't, I love doing it. I'm going to keep doing it anyway.
There you go. Now, who have been maybe some of the highlight guests that you've had on your show?
Every single one of them. No.
All of them.
No, all of them. I've had a lot of fun guests on over the years. I mean, I started bringing on local comedians that nobody's ever heard of. And, well, not nobody, but nobody outside of the Dayton area really knows who they are.
Right.
And most of those people, I love having them in. I loved having them in the studio live. I still love having them on. one of my all-time favorites is a local comedian named Holly Shock, who is she's a wonderful human being anyway, but she's probably one of my best promoters and cheerleaders, and just so much energy when she's on the show. And the first time I had her on, I was a little nervous because I didn't know her very well. And I wasn't sure where things were going to go because I knew she had this crazy energy. And I had a guest co-host for the show, and he had to back out like last minute. So now it's just going to be me and Holly, and I'm like, I really don't know how this is going to go. And it's one of those things that started up a friendship that's going to last quite a long time. She's a wonderful human being. I love having her on the show. So she's definitely a highlight. I mean, there are so many of these local comics that are just so great to have on, and just really, I've gotten really close to a lot of them.
And the comedy in Dayton, and for you this year, how has comedy had to evolve through all this?
I actually have not been on stage since January. I'd been planning on taking a break anyway, because last year I hit it kind of hard last year for me and wore myself out. But I was going to take a break and do a little bit of live theater. Local theater, which is another thing I love to do, but of course COVID hit and shut down all the theaters too. But all of our comedy clubs in the area were closed down. Wiley's reopened. Wiley's Comedy Club reopened in about mid-June, but it's very reduced seating. It's we aren't getting a lot of the bigger names in the club just because a lot of them still aren't traveling yet. So we've been having a lot of local shows there, which are fantastic anyway. But it's been a struggle for the club because I'm part owner of Wiley's Comedy Club here in Dayton as well. So it's been very tricky. Next Friday is going to be my first time back up on stage in, of all places, a parking lot. Because that's how comedy's had to evolve. It's wherever we can get a stage thrown up, that's where we're going to do it if we can keep people safe and distanced. But yeah, so next Friday I'm going to be performing in a parking lot in Xenia, Ohio.
Now,
for my triumphant return to the stage.
Yeah, I was gonna. Are the pre-sales? Are there any pre-sale tickets still available?
For the one next Friday, it's a free show. So
that's awesome. That's awesome.
It's a real comedy success story.
Now you talk about being from Dayton, and I think one of the people in my earlier interview times, it was actually before I was on air, one of the kindest people to me was Diamond Williams, the drummer for the Ohio Players there from Dayton as well. And for you, the pride of how is the pride there in Dayton of not only the music, the comedy, and even getting some notice in some college basketball as well?
Yeah, it's Dayton. It's weird. I grew up in a small town north of Dayton, and most of my early life I avoided going down there. But over the last several years being involved in comedy down there, it's been really, I've really come to love Dayton. Of course, I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what the pride level is. I'm not. I'm not big into sports. I know one of our local comedian friends, Larry Hanskin, is the voice of the UD Dayton Flyers. So he would probably be upset with me, but no, it's great that UD's getting attention in college sports like that. They're doing really well. I think I just heard that UD Arena is going to house the opening of the March Madness games.
The play-in games. Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean it's great. We hope more and more stuff starts coming to Dayton, and we can get get it back on the map in a bigger way again.
There you go. Now, Don, the podcast, the Life radio show, I want to make sure and let our listeners know where they can find it and subscribe and all that stuff as well.
Well, you can find it all over the place. You can always follow the Life 1069 on Facebook or Don Smith Comedy on Twitter. You can check out thelife1069.com. There's a link tree on there that has links to all kinds of stuff. There's also links to films I was in, links to that's the life1069.com is all things me. So, you can definitely find us there. I'm on Instagram, but I hardly ever do anything with it. But it's the Life 1069 again. So that's the best way to find us is Life 1069 on most things.
All right. Well, Don, it's been great to visit with you, and again, thank you for your time, and look forward to visiting again real soon.
All right. Thanks a lot.
Guest is the one and only legendary and friend, I like to call him as well, entertainer Pat Boone on the line. And first off, Pat, always great to visit with you, my friend.
Thank you, Cameron.
Now, Pat, we have actually talked about this song a little bit in the past, and I tell you, it is still, if not more, of a timely song now than it ever has been before.
Yeah, and it'll continue to be, because even though it features the ways people were actually reaching out to each other in the midst of the riots and the carnage, the violence and all of that, black, white, young, old, protesters, police, all trying to communicate with each other. The coronavirus and other issues, now this upcoming election, which is right on us, which is also so divisive. Mm-hmm. So we've got people of goodwill, people who actually love each other, so angry with each other, and it's true in my own family. I mean, I don't know of a family closer than mine, and yet there is really strongly divided opinion, and so hot and deep that it threatens our relationships.
Right.
And I mean, this is in a strong Christian family, daughters and husbands who have become more liberal in their thinking, and therefore they think their old patriarch daddy Pat is a lunatic if he could be supporting Donald Trump. Well, I'm supporting not Donald Trump as much as I am the man who God put into place. As the Bible says, he puts kings in their places and he removes them. And even though we go through the electoral process, which we should, he determines the outcome. It says, man proposes, God disposes. And there's no authority in place that he has not authorized, even if we voted it in. And so I have to be supportive of whoever is our president, whoever is my senator, my congressman, even if I didn't vote for them, and I'm supposed to pray for them, too, and I do. But we've reached a place in our society where people are so angry and so determined that certain things will not happen, or that they will, that they're losing the human and divine responses that we're supposed to have toward each other, even if we disagree fundamentally on things. So the song, I'm hoping, it's going to be nominated for an Academy Award and a Grammy. That is not an Academy Award, but a Grammy as a song of the year. And you know, some of the songs that I hear that are being played and popular right now are completely worthless as any kind of even real music or any kind of real communication. In fact, in many cases, I can't make out what the singers are saying. You know, it used to be that, and of course with our song, Can't We Get Along, Wendy Moten, make sure you understand every word that I wrote in the words and music. But that's what music should be. You shouldn't be guessing at what in the world a musician is trying to say, but if he or she is dancing around in a video with no clothes on practically, and doing very suggestive things, and then you get the gist of it anyway if you don't know what the words are. I mean, our culture is becoming really pretty corrupt, and we're getting used to it, unfortunately. So I'm hoping that a song with a very valid human message and even a divine message, that we must communicate with each other, we must value each other equally. I hope it's going to be thought of as a song or the song of 2020.
And like you mentioned, it is such a divisive time. And Pat, this do you think what 2020 has done to us is going to have a ripple effect for years to come as well, because of, like you said, the emotions getting the best of us? Yeah,
well, it sure can, because again, a lot depends on the outcome of the election and how this coronavirus is treated, because one way will tend to perpetuate it, the other will tend to sort of disarm it in various ways. I mean, I heard the governor of Missouri on television this morning talking about how they have increasingly diminishing the death rates in their state, even though the test rates are way up. Well, if you do millions and millions of tests, of course, you're going to get more and more indications of people who might have or do have some version of the virus, although in many, many cases, maybe even a majority of the cases, there's no visible symptoms. Yes, they might be able to transmit it, but that's true of all flus and all these contagious things, and our shutting down everything, business plus testing to magnify the number of cases, while the death rate is it's less than 5%. So if you do have the actual coronavirus, really do have it, then you have a 95 or 96% of surviving it. That is incredible. But we're emphasizing the negatives and not the positives. And we're supposed to be a positive country. And they even criticized the president for trying to be positive and as he called it, downplay the virus so that we wouldn't panic about it. Yeah, take responsible actions, but don't say, oh, gosh, the sky is falling, we're doomed, like Chicken Little. And because panic and fear, it can be not panic, but respect for the situation is called for, but not unreasonable fear and even maybe unreasonable precautions if we can survive without them.
That's right. And Pat, if folks want to find out more about the song and everything you've got going on, I know they can check out the website and the videos available online as well.
Yeah, it's just, YouTube, just type in Pat Boone, Can't We Get Along, even though I'm not singing it, the beautiful Wendy Moten is. I wrote the words and music in response to Rodney King's plea in 1992, when he too was beaten nearly to death in a police encounter when he was resisting arrest. But when he came out of the hospital, all puffy and still bruised, instead of saying something inflammatory or defensive even of himself, he said, "Can't we get along? Can't we be friends? Can't we work it out?" And I cried then and I cry now when I see human beings, black, white, old, young, protesters, police, reaching out to each other saying, yeah, let's get along, let's see each other, let's value each other. What can we do to help each other? I mean, when it begins in the heart and not just in the head, and it is people to people and not politicians, then we can actually solve these problems and we can get through it all, because this coronavirus, as bad as it is, will eventually diminish in some way and we'll get past it. But what will the wreckage in the country be? Can we survive that? So here's hoping and praying. In fact, that is the answer, is praying. And God's not unaware of what we're going through. And in spite, I just heard Bill Maher again decrying and villainizing, if that's a word, religion. And of course, he is an absolute militant atheist, and he calls all faith in God idiocy. Well, he's going to have to defend that position to God, who he denies in the not too distant future, like Hugh Hefner has already done. We will meet the one whose existence we deny and try to defend our positions, and our lack of belief and our derision. The rest of us, we hope, will say, I knew who you were, and I called on you, Lord, and I knew that you said if we would call on you, you'd heal our country. And so we're hoping and praying that you'll do that, even if we haven't been so faithful in recent years. But we know you can still save us if you will. And that's the answer. He is the great physician. He is the healer and the corrector and the one who can restore us to being one nation under God as we were in our greatness.
That's right. Well, Pat, it is always...
Well, I'll climb down off my soapbox now.
Well, Pat, it is always great to visit with you, sir, and I genuinely appreciate the time and hope you have a great rest of your week, and I look forward to talking again real soon.
Thank you, Cameron. Keep playing that song when you can.
Our next guest, a little local flavor, producer, writer, screenwriter, all that kind of stuff. Todd Greenlee on the line with us. And first off, Todd, thank you so much for taking time to be on the show today.
Thanks for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Now, Todd, obviously an Altus connection. Got the new movie All Eyes that you guys have been working on, obviously in the production phase of that. And Todd, what was it like for you to come back home to do some of the production work, some of the filming?
It was a blast. We've always, my brothers and I, the whole time we've been making movies, we've always been like, we're going to take our movies back to Oklahoma. We really do love shooting there. We grew up shooting all of our shorts in Oklahoma and Altus, so it was really a fun thing to kind of come back and get to shoot there. It was great.
Now tell us a little bit about the movie, about where the script came from and the inspiration.
So the movie's called All Eyes. It's about a disgraced podcast host who gets this story that he thinks is going to save his career, and it's of an eccentric farmer in Hobart, Oklahoma, who claims to have a monster living in the woods behind his house. It's a fun movie. It's a survival thriller. We kind of came about it. Sometimes my brother and I, when we come up with a movie, we start with the location in mind first. That's with our first movie, Home with the View of the Monster, which is on Amazon Prime. We started with this location at a lake house in Grand Lake. And so we kind of, with All Eyes, we knew we had this farm in Hobart that we've always wanted to shoot at. We had full access to the farm. So it was just a matter of coming up with the right story to tell there. And I work in post-production on movies, and I've been off for a while because of the quarantine and COVID and stuff. And because of that, I was like, well, I have a lot of free time to kind of edit a movie or direct one. So my brother and I came up with the story, and I was able to go out and go to Oklahoma and shoot it. And luckily for me, there's a lot of friends I had that also were off. So they all kind of came out and helped. So we got a lot of, it was a blast. It was almost like a summer camp, it really felt, it was so much fun.
And tell us a little bit, what's it like doing an undertaking like this? I know that there's crowdfunding and crowdsourcing and things like that. Is that also an option with the film?
Yeah. So we're actually going that route, but in a different way. Like with our first movie, Home with the View of the Monster, we did a crowdfunding campaign. It's usually typical to do it at the beginning of the movie to kind of help pay for, the production, because that's kind of a lot of money goes into that. But with this movie, we kind of went at the opposite route. We want to pay for, we're starting a crowdfunding campaign to raise money for post-production, which a lot of people don't really know what that is, but that's like the sound mixing, the music, the editing. It's like literally the movie coming together and the visual effects and stuff like that. And that, for an indie movie like ours, can actually end up being a lot more money than the production of it, you know, the actual shooting of the movie. So we're actually raising money right now on Seed and Spark for post-production, because that gets pretty pricey. But this movie it was really fun. It kind of became a bigger undertaking than we originally planned, which is it's a good thing, because it became a bigger thing than it, you know, there's like a lot more potential to it. But we kind of I think it was like the first day of shooting, we had this crew that we slowly acquired this really big crew. And the first day of shooting, we were just kind of like, man, this is kind of a lot bigger thing than we thought. And but it's pretty awesome. It's like the stuff we're getting, it's a fun movie. We keep comparing it. It's kind of like an adult Home Alone, you know. It's like Home Alone in reverse a little bit. There's just a lot of crazy there's a lot of crazy stuff that happens in it. So and we got to build a bunch of traps and we kind of rigged this whole farm to kind of like, you know, work for the story. So it was a blast. There's a lot of work though. We were up till 5 a.m, I think, most days, because we kind of crammed a script that should have been like, you know, 4 weeks into 2. So there's a lot of work.
and talk about the challenges. I know that we had when you guys were at the studio, we had the maintenance crew that came in every night to do the cleanup.
They were awesome.
What was that kind of the theme you guys had to use at all the different locations you guys had to shoot at?
Yeah. So the pandemic's kind of been a crazy thing for filmmaking right now. You kind of have to reevaluate like kind of how you're going to do a movie. Like our first movie, we had a lot bigger crew. It was still kind of an isolated location, but we had a lot bigger crew. With this one, we kind of had to like keep quarantine in mind, and we used the precautions set out by the Oklahoma Film Office. And what we did is we made sure people were wearing masks. We did create kind of a bubble of a crew, so that helped out. And then it was a lot smaller crew than before. And then we took people's temperatures. People's meals were served separately, like an individually packaged thing. So there's just a lot of stuff we got to keep in mind for people's safety. But in Altus, when we shot at the radio station, like every day, Moonlight Cleaning came out and cleaned the whole studio for us. And that was amazing. That really helped us, that every day we came back, it was like a clean place, and we knew it was going to be safe, and we knew we weren't putting other people in harm's way. So I'm pretty, I was very confident by the end of shooting. We were like, man, like no one got COVID from it. It was a great experience. So, it was definitely a challenge. But our movie deals with, our movie is kind of an isolated movie anyway. It deals with a guy in isolation, so it's kind of fitting for these times. It's just we kind of went into it not being like, we're not going to make a movie about COVID, because no one wants to see that right now. So we kind of dealt with the same themes of isolation, and it worked out, especially right now filming a movie like that. So
Now you into the post-production, and obviously you get into the marketing and putting out of the movie. Now, how long of a process are you looking at from now until release?
So with our first movie, that process was really long. We're really pushing this one to be a lot quicker of a process. Our first movie, we shot it is in 2017. It took the shoot was like a month. We did it in a month in March 2017. And then it took like a year and a half for post-production, which this movie, and then it got released like just the beginning of this year on like Amazon, iTunes, streaming and stuff. This movie we're really pushing. We shot it in July this year, and we're really pushing to have something like beginning next year, like for at least festivals. So we're hoping by like next year people will be able to see it, because we're really like that's, especially right now during the campaign, the crowdfunding campaign is to really to help us push the movie out a lot quicker. So, yeah.
Now for you, where did your first love for the idea of movies? What now, was it the acting side of it, or was it the actual theatrical and the whole screen process that drew you in?
I'm not an in front of camera guy at all. I hate being in front of camera. My brother Alex, he loves it. I hate it. I'm definitely more behind camera. We kind of got into it. We've always loved movies. I honestly don't remember. I mean, even when I was like really, really young, we loved movies. But it wasn't really until I think we were introduced to the Oklahoma Summer Arts Institute at Quartz Mountain. We kind of saw they had just started doing film there, and we went to go see some of the student films, and I was just like blown away. And I was like, whoa, people like around our age are doing this stuff. And, age doesn't matter. So to do this kind of, tell stories and with movies, and we took that as a really cool, like, medium for us to kind of tackle. So after that, I went to the Oklahoma Summer Arts Institute a few years in film, and they kind of just, going into college, I went to do, we studied film and media at OU. And I never changed my majors. I was like, pretty much, I didn't really have a plan B. I was just like, this is what I'm doing. So unluckily for me, I have very supportive parents, and that helps out. So, I kind of went into that, and then I'm working in movies now. So, it's just kind of a lot of hard work to get to this point. But, yeah, it's pretty cool.
So what is your normal day-to-day labor? What kind of is your normal day-to-day, or what was your normal day-to-day before COVID hit?
So I've been working in the movie industry probably. I originally from college. I moved to New Orleans. I lived there for a few years working in movies as a PA. And that, PAs, they do all the, the grunt work. It's pretty much getting getting people's coffees and, making runs to set, or, printing off scripts and stuff. But it was fun for me because, I was around set. I was around these directors and actors and stuff. And it was like, I was able to just learn more. I learned a lot in college, but like working on movies, I learned like so much. And after living in New Orleans for a few years, I moved to LA because I wanted to get more into post-production, which is editing and stuff. And there really wasn't that much going on in New Orleans as far as that, because most movies either do editing in Los Angeles or they do it in New York. So I moved to LA and worked. My first job in LA was on this Netflix movie called Bright, and I was like a PA on that. And then after that, I was like, I'm going to get out of being like a PA on set. I'm going to do post-production stuff. So I slowly got introduced to some really amazing editors, like Carol Littleton, who she edited E.T. She's from Oklahoma. She edited E.T. and The Big Chill. I kind of started working with her. And then I worked with Melissa Kent. She's a great editor as well. And slowly I just, I've been pursuing that. Now I'm working on being an assistant editor. So, yeah, it's been fun. Recently, one of my favorite movies I worked on like in the past few years is called The Dirt. It was like a Motley Crue biopic on Netflix. That movie was a blast. That movie was so much fun. So that, for me, like doing what I was doing at that point was like, it was a lot of, that movie is a biopic, so there's a lot of stock footage and like a lot of archival stuff I had to find. And for me, one of the most fun parts of that movie was the ending credit. Is they do like a side by side of the real people with the people in the movie, and that's pretty much I had to find like all of that stuff. So that was a challenge. Things that kind of matched what I was in the movie. But I learned a lot about 80s rock through that movie, so that was pretty awesome. I didn't know anything about it before that, so it's pretty cool. That's one thing I love about movies. When I work on like random movies, I am always learning new things about stuff I would have never, thought about. Like one movie I worked on was My Dinner with Hervé, and it was about Hervé Villechaize, who was in Fantasy Island, and it was like a biopic about him. I learned so much about Fantasy Island. I don't know if that trivia is ever going to come into play in my life, but now I know a lot about Fantasy Island. So.
Now, how big of a learning curve or a adjustment to the lifestyle change was there going from New Orleans to LA?
I mean, the weather's a lot nicer in Los Angeles. The weather in New Orleans is very. I love New Orleans. Like, the culture there is very rich. It's such a fun city to be in. It just doesn't even feel like it feels like its own thing. It doesn't even feel like anything else in America, you know. But being there, it is like, you know, after a few years, I was like, man, I could easily be here for like ever. You know, it's like it's such such a safe, cool place. And but moving to Los Angeles, I love Los Angeles because it is a lot bigger, and I feel like there's something for everybody here. Mm-hmm. There's so many different groups. I mean, this year's been really weird as far as, like, you know, mingling with people, but it is, and you'll be surprised. There are a lot of Oklahoma people in Los Angeles. I'm always, like, constantly on movies and stuff meeting Oklahoma people. And there's always, like, some Oklahoma connection somewhere. And it does feel like a big family, you know, it really does. Like, when you get to meet these people. But that said, like, you know, the one thing I do love about going to Oklahoma for our filming is there is a bigger sense of community in Oklahoma. And that's just something that, you know, we're able to film a movie that we wouldn't be able to really do for the price here in Los Angeles. So, but I do love Los Angeles. I really do. It's such a fun place to live at. And the weather's amazing. And then, you know, it's kind of, I was talking to my mom, like, I think it was yesterday, and she's saying it was kind of cold. And I was like, man, I forget other places have seasons, you know, because LA doesn't really have seasons. But
that's awesome. Now, Todd, if folks like we mentioned want to find out more information about the crowdfunding project, also social media wise, all the different projects you're working on, where can folks get more information?
So we have a website. It's called homefrontpictures.com, but we also have an Instagram. It's Homefront Pics, and then Facebook is the same, Homefront Pics. But our movie All Lies also has an Instagram and Facebook account. So we're always posting updates about the process. And if people want to go learn more about our crowdfunding campaign, it's on Seed and Spark, and people can look up All Lies, and we have all the information there. We have like a video kind of explaining what we're trying to do with it. And the trailer's also posted, so people can see the trailer and see what it's looking like. And the poster. We have a poster as well. So.
All right. Well, Todd, it's been great to visit with you. Still, yet face to face. We were quarantined last time around, so one of these days we'll catch up face to face.
One of these days.
Well, Todd, again, thank you for your time, really looking forward to the new film.
Thank you so much. I can't wait for you.
Thanks again for joining us for this episode of Good Questions with Cameron Dole. If you ever have a comment, question, or anything else you'd like to know, find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at GQwithCam. If you'd like to help in the funding of this podcast, feel free to click the support tab and follow the instructions. If you have a special guest idea, email me, Cameron@kwhw.com. We'll be back with episode 36 coming up tomorrow.